We're back with more from our CBS Correspondent Roundtable. Nancy, I want to start with you, picking up on the point that Jan was making about what Democrats are going to do to resist Mr. Trump's picks. What's your sense of how they're going to do it? Resist everything? Pick your shots? Is there one marquee battle to watch?
They're going to have to pick their battles because almost to a person, these nominees, Democrats believe, are antithetical to the positions they intend to hold. They think, for example, that if you don't believe that the environment is in trouble, you shouldn't be running the EPA, and on and on. However, Democrats also want to be able to make a larger point, not just about this nominee or that nominee, but that in general, they believe that the Trump administration is outside the mainstream. And if you've got every Senate Democrat making that case against every single nominee, that message is going to get lost. So they will try to pick a few marquee nominees to really go after in public hearings to try to get a lot of attention. Beyond getting attention, it's not clear that there's much that they can do to stop any of these nominations, and they know that because they simply don't have the numbers.
What are your quick thoughts on Chuck Schumer? Mitch McConnell famously told Major Garrett that he wanted to keep President Obama to being a one-term president. Is that the way Chuck Schumer, as the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, is positioning himself against Donald Trump, or does he have another view?
I'm not sure that's in his DNA. So there are some Democrats
to be obstructionist. He wants to make a deal.
To be obstructionist. He likes to make a deal. Chuck Schumer does want to cut a deal, for instance, on infrastructure spending, even though there are going to be some in his own party who say, if you cut a deal with Donald Trump on that or anything else, you are going to send a message to the rest of the country that he is someone who can get things done, and we shouldn't allow that to happen.
David, let me ask you about terrorism, because it was talked about so much by Donald Trump in the campaign. He said he wanted a 30-day plan to take care of ISIS. What's your sense of where that battle stands when the president inherits it?
Well, he's going to inherit a battle in which ISIS is just losing ground by the day. They've lost half the territory they once held in Iraq. And the Battle of Mosul is going to be long and it's going to be ugly. But the city's surrounded. They're going to lose. So geographically, ISIS is losing. But of course, as everybody points out, it's the idea that you have to kill as well. You might get lucky, kill al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, and that will somehow collapse the whole impetus behind the movement, but I doubt it.
Hard to kill an idea.
Hard to kill an idea. So I think whatever Donald Trump inherits on the ground, the real battle is going to be in the air for the battle of ideas. And
there is a lot of concern, John. Once they squeeze ISIS on the battlefield and al-Qaeda on the battlefield, that the killers will then spread out across Western Europe and maybe try to come here to the U.S.
And I'd say the next question is, okay, so ISIS falls, then what happens on the day after? We've heard the president-elect criticized the current president for leaving a vacuum in the Middle East, that disappearing red line in Syria, the failure to prevent atrocities. So if you take out ISIS in Syria or in Iraq, how do you actually build up a government that can keep a functioning military this time, right? How do you prevent repeating the mistakes that they've criticized the Obama administration for? I would say watch really carefully what happens in Syria. That is going to be such a litmus test because of that articulation of American weakness there that Trump has hit Obama on. Does he choose to see this as a battlefield against Iran, which has strengthened its hold on the region and the Iranian-backed militias, or does he see this as a way to partner with the Russians who have backed Iran, who have backed Assad, who are carrying out those atrocities that the U.S. calls a war crime?
You know, the Obama administration has struggled mightily not to be distracted by anything in Syria other than the war against ISIS. Do not get involved in the civil war. And I can't imagine that General Mattis wouldn't have the same advice to President Trump. Whether or not President Trump follows that advice is another question.
But he also likely sees it as not a civil war anymore. It's a ground war with Iran. It's an air war with Russia. And if you want to solve some of the problems when you look at Europe, that refugee crisis, that flow of terrorists that Jeff was talking about, the beating heart of that is in Syria. And you need to address that in some way. Maybe it's not the ground troops that President Obama said were the only answer and the one that he shut down, but he's got to do something.
If it's safe havens and you ask the regional allies for money and they say say no, and it's not a real estate transaction. It's actually hardball geopolitics where the Saudis and others say, no, we're not going to pony up. You told all the people in America we would. Guess what? We won't.
The safe havens that Donald Trump wants to create and have the Saudis pay for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, then where are you left? You're back where the Obama administration has been for struggling for 6 years.
If it's safe havens, does that mean you're willing to shoot down a Russian aircraft?
Right,
Right.
to protect them.
That's a bit of an art.
Even if they are
form of
paid
art,
for.
too, because the president has leaned into this idea of humanitarian corridors, that it's not even a no-fly zone as we describe it. So there's some mushiness here in terms of what that could actually mean.
Let me move on to our final round here, which is predictions for the year of 2017. Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, great.
I want to, give us a prediction about something that's going to happen in 2017 or a clever way to get out of the question.
Well, listen, I was struggling over this one because I felt like, I could go the easy route and say something about ISIS, but I'm going to go the harder route and talk about James Comey, frankly, because where will he be in January? I think he will be at the FBI. There are a lot of people in Washington who might disagree with that. But I've talked to sources who say that he's spoken in groups of retired agents, and he's been very comfortable there, and he's defended his decisions as something that he had to do given the cards that he was dealt. So I think he stays at the FBI.
He's comfortable with retired agents but doesn't want to become one. Nancy, what's your prediction for 2017?
I think by the end of the year, you will see a new Democratic organization that does not currently exist, designed to try to reach some of these white working class voters that the Clinton administration, the Clinton campaign wasn't able to reach in 2016. You've got a number of high-ranking Clinton campaign officials who thought they were going to spend the next 4 years very busy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, now looking for a new purpose.
David, what are your thoughts for 2017?
Well, the bar is low because everybody's been so wrong all the time about Donald Trump. I will predict that he will meet personally with Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, and attempt to cut a deal that would somehow at least freeze the North Korean nuclear weapons program.
Major?
A year from now, we will be writing about Vice President Mike Pence, the most important person in the Trump administration, because at every personnel level, at every turn, he will have won more than he's lost. And whatever the ideology of President Trump is, the personnel implementing it will be at almost every vital turn selected, vetted, and recommended by Mike Pence. And in more ways than Dick Cheney, a very powerful vice president.
All right. Jan Crawford.
Well, I was going to stick with something that is much more predictable, and that is that Alabama is going to win the national championship again for the fifth time. I mean, that's something I think we can all say. The odds are higher.
The sun rises, the sun sets,
exactly.
Alabama wins.
So
These
roll Tide.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. And also, is that good enough, or do you want a serious one? Because we know that's going to happen. That's really not much of a prediction. I think that the Supreme Court confirmation fight is going to be the biggest battle that we will see. I think it's going to be a place for Democrats to kind of put all their pent-up rage and frustration at what happened in November. You're going to see a real effort to block President Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court. My prediction is that will fail.
All right, and Margaret, your prediction for
No
2017?
sleep for any of us for the entire year, and frequent confrontations, small scale or otherwise, with both Iran pushing the limits of its nuclear program and seeing if the Trump administration enforces it, and with North Korea, which is about scheduled for another test sometime soon.
A busy year. Thank you all for being here at the end. And that's it for our Correspondents' Roundtable. I want to thank all of you for being here, and we'll be back in a moment.